Hi, this is John Cole with okraw.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you. In today's episode, we'll be answering your guys' questions in my garden here on a nice April evening. So the first thing is, if you have a question for me that you would like to answer, please submit them on my YouTube community tab. Link is right down below this video so that you can submit a question that I may answer in next month's Q&A. In any case, on with this month's questions. First question is from Julia Giz. Can you give me your current list of recommended coconut opening tools for both water and meat for both green and mature coconuts? The Cocoa Jack company you recommended in your GYG book is out of business. Where can I get good quality tools? I am not strong, so I can't use a machete. I currently have only the coconut key, which works decently, but I can't get the meat. Thanks for your help. All right, Julie, so it sucks that actually the Cocoa Jack company is out of business. I thought they were a pretty solid company. Basically what I think that they got basically knocked off by some companies over in China. And so probably on Amazon there are products that look pretty much just like the Cocoa Jack. So I would check that out on Amazon. Make sure there's some good reviews on there before you buy it. Cocoa Jacks are pretty, basic tools. They're just steel with like some stainless steel with a little cutting blade, and you hit it with a hammer and they work. I suppose you could get one that had poor quality or not, but I'm glad I have a collector's item now. There also are some other tools. I like the Inox Brazilian coconut opener for like young coconuts from Brazil. It's all stainless steel. And then I have some coconut demeating tools. Actually, I just went to Amazon and ordered all the coconut demeating tools they have on Amazon. Kind of sucks now though, because I'm kind of minimizing and actually not even really eating coconut meat these days myself. But I will be making an upcoming episode where I test all the different coconut demeating tools, so I don't have an answer for you on that one yet. Although if you click the subscribe button right down below, be sure to stay updated on how to do it. And the other thing is, I don't know what kind of coconut you are trying to open. So that's going to really make a big difference as well. If you're opening Mexican coconuts that we get in the United States, whether they're brown or white with the hairs on them, actually I use a fish fillet knife with a very skinny tip just to pry out the big hole. And then I use like a standard Chinese meat cleaver on the back to just crack it open in half to kind of get two halves. I've done that in many videos before. If you're trying to open the Thai coconuts that look like little yurts, then I would just use a nice chef's knife to basically pop a hole in it and take out a big plug. I have videos on how to do this here on YouTube. It's pretty simple, pretty easy. You don't have to be strong. You don't have to use a machete. Now, if you have the green coconuts in the husk, I got to make some more videos on that. I do have some videos on that I've done in the past, but I need to make some updated videos on that. I mean, for that, it's pretty much a machete. They probably have some other tools I've seen like in YouTube videos from India and whatnot that probably cost a lot of money that could work. I mean, I've seen people use like a Makita, or a cordless drill with like a bit to kind of get in there. All right, so hope that helps you out there. Next question is from Alex. Hi, John. In your opinion, should we eat the peels from oranges? Thank you. So the peels or the pith, there's three parts of the orange to me, well maybe four even, that could have nutritive value. Number one, the orange coloring on the outside. Number two, the white pith, that's right underneath the orange coloring. Then we have the whole fruit itself, and then we have actually the seeds themselves, which actually are their own source of nutrients. So I think that we should eat all parts of the orange except the orange coloring. When you peel the orange and just take it off, peels with your hands, you get the orange coloring plus the white pith. I'm saying that we should eat the white pith, so the best way is to get an apple peeling machine where they actually make the peel-o-matic, good for peeling oranges, or just take a paring knife and carve off the outside coloring or orange coloring on oranges, the coloring on the grapefruits, and the coloring on the tangerines. But we should be eating as much pith as we possibly can. I think the pith is responsible for about half of the vitamin C in oranges, so when you're not eating the white part, the pith, you're literally losing half of the food value. The pith is also rich in pectin, which is a soluble fiber that can also feed our microbiome. So my favorite way to eat oranges actually is to juice them, because I get the nutrition from the oranges, I get some of the nutrients from the seed that are being squeezed out, and I basically get the nutrients from that white pith as well, and it kind of tempers down the sweetness of the orange juice. because the pith is so rich in pectin. Actually, I have some pectin-rich juices that actually formed into a gel inside my fridge, so it's actually kind of like Jell-O. Next question is from Tally Allen. What is your opinion on honey? Is there an ethical way to eat it? As a vegan, I have not eaten honey for 15 years. However, I've been wondering if all honey should be avoided, or can the nutritional benefits outweigh the fact that it's an animal product? What are your thoughts? Thank you in advance. All right, so there's multi-step answers in this, and if you're a vegan, you may get upset with my personal belief and my response on this topic. I'm not a person that's gonna say, all honey is bad, it's not vegan. I'm not gonna say that. What I will say is that almost all honey is bad, and you probably shouldn't eat it because it hasn't been made in a sustainable or ethical way, in my personal opinion. They truck bees and ship them around like they are literally cattle on the back of trucks. Actually, probably right in the springtime, right about now, to pollinate almonds. So if you're eating almonds and you're vegan, maybe those aren't vegan either, because you're using enslaved bee labor to get them to be pollinated. So, you know, I've been like living in the plant-based, raw vegan food system for a while, and because I grow my own food, I visit a lot of farms and do a lot of research on things, right? I formed my own opinions on these things more than just what the book will tell you or what the common belief should be, right? I'm telling you guys what I believe based on what I've observed, based on other people's opinions on how they would like to influence me, and just what I think, all right? So my opinion on honey. So number one, honey, I mean, it's good to the extent it's not good, right? The main reason why honey is good is because the bees go around and collect the nectar from like millions of plants and concentrate that down. So now you're getting basically the phytonutrients from the plant nectars secondhand that they put through their regurgitative, if you want to say that process, or enzymatic breakdown process, and concentrated it for you guys, which also increases the sugar content because you're removing the water content. In my personal opinion, a much better way to get plant nutrients instead of letting the bees collect it for you is to eat it yourself. So go around and suck on your own flowers. And I'm not kidding. I mean, you may be laughing right now, but I'm saying I like to suck on my own flowers. I like to suck on a lot of things, but I like to suck on my flowers, especially my pineapple sage flowers. They have really nice sweet nectar. Any of my vegetables and even fruits that I grow, you know, that I see bees landing on and extracting the nectar and some of the pollen from, I'll just pick those flowers and eat them to get those benefits. They say Manuka honey is so good for you, you know, and it's only so good for you because the bees are getting the nutrients in the Manuka plant that then they concentrate. Now you get to eat it. You know, maybe a better source of that would just be getting Manuka dried flowers and eating those, you know, if the pollen and the nectar is preserved. I mean, a lot of ways they probably may not be preserving those with the high processing method, so bees have a really great way to do that because it is their food source, not ours. Now the other thing I'm going to say, that's why honey's good. The honey's not so good is because it is a concentrated sweetener, and I am not a fan of concentrated sweeteners, whatever their source. Coconut syrup, coconut sap, you know, honey, maple syrup. You know, the best sweeteners on earth are fresh fruits. After that, be followed by dried fruits. And actually, maybe even better than those are actually just things that are sweet that are not really sweeteners at all. And I'm not going to say stevia or anything. What I will be saying is like an inulin powder. Those are quite sweet, but we really can't digest them. But they feed our gut microbiome. I had a recent episode on yacon, jicama, and sunchokes or Jerusalem artichokes that are rich in inulin fiber. But you can just buy powdered inulin fiber if you want to eat it. Normally it's made from chicory and highly processed, so I'd encourage you guys to get the, you know, whole food form of inulin to feed your gut microbiome. All right, so that's my general opinion on honey. Next is there an ethical way to eat it? And actually, I would say yes, there is. Now, those ethical ways does not include going to your local farmer's market, going to the local store to buy it organically, whatever certification they have, I don't really care. And maybe it's not even going and getting it from your friend that has a beehive. Because to me, it is about how are the bees raised and taken care of. And are the beekeepers, the people keeping the bees, like they're your pets, are they basically robbing and stealing the honey, which is there for the bees, because the bees are making a food source so that they could have food over the winter. Most beekeepers basically steal the food source from the bees so that they could profit off it, which I believe is wrong. and then they sell it. And then what do the bees do? The bees now have their food taken away. Now, oh, the beekeepers have the bright idea. I could just give the bees sugar water to feed them instead of their honey. It's like almost the same thing, and sugar water is cheap, and I could steal their honey and sell it for a lot more. Let's not also mention that a lot of honeys are doctored up, maybe with even corn syrup and other things to basically, add quantity to it that may not even be 100% real honey, and you may not get the benefits from it. So I'm quite skeptical of any honey that you may be buying at the grocery store, a health food store, or even the farmer's market. The farmer's market here, I had a buddy who worked the booth at the farmer's market, and he's like, the guy that sells the honey here basically just gets honey out of jars and he puts it in his bottles and he sells it like he made it himself, like it from his bees. So I mean, that's unethical at its finest, in my personal opinion, and I won't be mentioning any names, but their farm starts with an H, I believe. So the ethical way to do it is this. You gotta keep your own bees. What I've learned from a young age, and kind of is bad, but it's kind of good, is that if you want something done right, you gotta do it yourself. I grow my own food. I know how this food was raised. It was raised as ethically as possible. I strive not to spray anything on it. I add nutrients to the soil, and I know every step of the way, aside from the plant starch that I bought, how the plants were raised, and I know what I'm eating and what I'm putting into my body. And if you want to put honey into your body, that's up to you. But what I will tell you is that I believe you should have your own bees, keep your own bees, treat them as you would a dog, a cat, or other pet, or maybe even your husband or your wife that you love, right? Treat them with the utmost care and respect. Don't smoke them out like other beekeepers do. That confuses them. Would you like to be smoked out of your house? You'd be confused. You wouldn't like that, right? There are ethical beekeepers out there, but I still wouldn't even buy their honey, and here's the reason. Because they're still going to steal the honey at the end of the season. Maybe some of them won't. I met one beekeeper, if I remember, I'll put a link down below to the video I made at her place. It was up in, Colorado or Utah. And what she does is she basically will let her bees collect all the nectar and pollen for the whole summer time. And she has extra bee boxes in there, so they create extra honey. Then what she does is she will pull back maybe half of the honey, and she'll take it out of their hive. So yes, she's kind of, taking it out of their hive, which is their food source, but she's leaving them enough food, because the thing is that the bees will make more food than they need. Like I like to stock up on more vegetables and fruits than I need as well. So I will never run out, and the bees don't want to run either. But what she does is she takes the honeycombs out, and then she stores it in her fridge in her home over the winter time. She'll go out and check on the bees every once in a while to make sure their honey is good and it's being, eaten by the bees, and they're surviving and hunkering down for the winter successfully, right? And then what happens at the end of the winter time, when it's spring and things are blooming again, if the bees had enough of their own honey to eat, then she will I would believe, use the honey that she harvested extra because she is caring for the bees as their pets. And then she would consume that herself or sell it, whatever she wants to do with it. But this way, I believe it's ethical. But here's the thing she also does. She just doesn't save it, because say what happens to the bees, and this happened to her, and this is why she does this. And this is like, wow, like the light bulb went off in my brain. What happened to her is that she left all the honey in her hives one year for her bees, right? And then what happened was her bees' honey got robbed. Yes, I mean, like, people will rob your house if you don't lock your doors, right? There's probably a local beekeeper that stole their bees' honey to sell, feeding their bees sugar water. The bees are like, we're not eating this sugar water crap. It's so processed. We're going to go out and find another bee's hive that has their honey, and we're going to go in there and steal it, right? Yeah, and the queen bee ordered, steal the next door neighbor's honey or all their honey from their hive and stuff. And then the bad bees went out and stole the good bees' honey that they're just trying to survive, and they got robbed of their honey. And then what? Then her bee population that her pets, her friends that she treats with utmost care and respect, basically had to starve, and she had to like go struggle and figure out how am I going to feed my bees now. So this is why she pulls some honey aside for the health and preservation of her bees. Now, you could also argue at the end of the season, if they did have enough of their honey, that you are still stealing their honey and it's still wrong and not vegan. But on the flip side, I would say that I think you're doing them a service by holding their honey. It's like if you put your money in the bank, hopefully they're going to give you some interest because you're doing them a service. You're doing the bank a favor by letting them play with your money and invest your money for a certain period of time. You know, that's my personal thoughts on it. So if you want to eat honey ethically, raise your own bees, store their honey for the winter. And if they don't have enough, give it back to them and just be like, that's what it is, because that's what you would do for a friend or another, you know, creature that you respect, another earthling on the planet. All right. Let's see. So I've been wondering if all honey should be avoided, or can nutritional benefits outweigh the fact that it's an animal product? Yeah. So I pretty much kind of answered all that. I think that the nutritional benefits, there can be some depending on the honey. And I mean, also too, I mean, honey could be an inoculant. Like if you have allergies because you're eating pollen in smaller amounts, it could maybe help with your allergies. That being said, I would say go out and collect your own pollen. Most people aren't going to do that, so people let the bees do it. And so those are my entire thoughts. So if you choose to have honey, make it, you know, have your own bees, raise them yourself. And then the other thing I would say is that if I do eat honey, which is extremely rare, I don't raise my own bees, so I'm not even perfect myself. I do get it from a friend that, you know, does it in the most sustainable way possible. I don't think he preserves the honey for the bees like I would want him to do, because I can't control what other people do. But at least it's homemade honey where he treats his bees quite well, and I think he does leave enough honey for the bees for them to survive, instead of just feeding them sugar water like many beekeepers do on a very irregular basis. I might even have it once a month, but actually even within the past 3 or 4 months, I haven't had honey once. But I have switched to eating some very dark maple syrup that is actually high in polyphenols. And so I've been experimenting with that lately. Maybe I'll have a video on that upcoming soon for you guys. Next question is from Zarius Galbin. Hi John, what raw vegan dietary advice can you give to someone suffering from chronic gastritis and acid reflux? All right, Zarius, so I would say consult your doctor. I could say that if I had chronic gastritis and acid reflux, you know, I would personally try to eat a lighter diet. So I would try to, you know, maybe remove partial fiber of some of the produce I eat to see what I could get away with. You know, I already love juicing so much. I would see if, hey, if I drank this juice, a vegetable juice, or maybe a vegetable combination fruit juice, or a carrot juice, or a celery juice, how would that affect my, you know, chronic gastritis and acid reflux? Would it be good for it? Would it be bad for it? Would it upset it or not? I would then also experiment with just small amounts of different kinds of fruits to see. You know, I'm not a doctor, I don't know about all these things, but I would just try to experiment and see what foods are more sensitive to than not. And I would try to include the foods that I was not sensitive to. And then of course I would go see some kind of natural doctor to help you more with that situation and see a professional. All right, next question is from Lavinia Harrison. John, in one of your videos, I believe you said you reuse the water you use during your juicing process in your gardens, which I believe to be a wonderful idea. I'm not able to always purchase organic fruits and vegetables, and even when I do, I use the process I learned from another channel to clean my produce. I have a small bucket, fill it up with RO water, and add baking soda, and allow my fruits and vegetables to soak to get as much of the toxins off them as possible. My question is two-part. Firstly, do you agree with this process for cleaning produce? And is the water beneficial to reuse on plants? Thanks for taking the time to answer these questions and for all you do. All right, Lavinia, so here's the thing. Like, I buy 90% plus organic produce, and there's some non-organic things I buy. If it's available organic, generally I won't buy it non-organic, with few exceptions. You know, maybe mangoes, pineapples, maybe some papaya sometimes, but apples, any berries, pretty much I'm always gonna get organic. I don't really buy too many leafy greens aside from romaine hearts because I got all the greens I need. Here's the thing, I just wash my fruits and vegetables with water only. I don't go into these special processing of, like, you know, baking soda and all this stuff. And actually all the water I collect in these 5-gallon buckets that are just below like a plastic laundry sink that I use to wash everything. And then I basically just cart out buckets of water and just pour it on my fruit trees and my garden, over my vegetables, and all over the place. And for washing dishes, I do use a, you know, gray water safe soap, okay? So I think that reusing your water is a great thing. And let me tell you guys, when you guys start catching the water of washing produce and washing juicers and dishes, you really understand better how much water you use, and will try to, maybe conserve a little bit more because every gallon I use is a gallon I'm carrying to dump out in my garden, which builds my muscles. But also, if I want to minimize my work, I'm like, okay, I need to save as much water as possible, and that's just good for the planet anyways, all right? So the other thing is, what do I think about using baking soda and RO water to clean your fruits and vegetables to soak and get as much toxins off them as possible? I personally believe that there's some studies out there that I seem to recollect that it said, I think salt was maybe a better thing to use than baking soda and maybe even vinegar. I know things you commonly soak produce in. Me personally, I would probably just not even use any of those methods, because now your water is, I don't want to say contaminated, but now you've changed the pH or the properties of the water so that if you pour it on plants, it can be detrimental to the plants. High sodium content in plants will kill them. Low pH from the baking soda could mess up your garden. High pH from the vinegar could also mess up your garden. And I haven't looked at the studies on like removing pesticides and all these things. But what I would do instead, that I feel is even safer than that, and has been shown even by the FDA to kill bacteria or bad bacteria. And actually, I'm quite concerned about food contamination and bad bacteria, but it'll also probably likely kill good bacteria. I would do ozonation of the water that you're cleaning your vegetables in. So I'd basically soak the vegetables in that same bucket with RO water, and then ozonate the water. That ozone is an oxidizer, so it'll oxidize things like pesticides. It'll also kill bacteria, both the good and the bad. So it's good to kill the bad bacteria, probably not so good to kill the good bacteria. And then I would also do an ultrasonic vibration. So I bought this, contraption from China that's like a little wash tub that you could put in your sink. You fill it with water, and you put your stuff in like this little like wire bin, and it basically ozonates the water as it ultrasonically vibrates it. Ultrasonic vibration, is used to clean rings and jewelry of tarnish, and it gets them clean. So it's basically going to ultra vibrate the particles off while you're oxidizing them with ozone. So I do have one of those units, but I rarely use it. If I have some produce that I think is really like dirty or bad, then I'll use it. But otherwise, I just wash all my stuff with water, man. Most of the stuff I buy is organic, and I'm not that paranoid. So, next question is from Sarah L. Why do you look like you're retaining water and look yellow in your last video? Do you drink or have a liver thing going on? Be safe. All right, Sarah, so I appreciate your concern. But, I was going through a time when I was overeating. Like, I was overeating on a nightly basis. Not good. Overeating is not good. Even if you're overeating the healthiest stuff on the earth, which was dried fruits for me, it wasn't good. I was gaining too much weight. I wasn't sleeping good, eating too late. Yeah, eating too late is already not good. Excess consumption of calories is not good. Yeah, my body was working a little bit harder than it should be. I've got that back down to control. I've done several blood tests. My liver's fine. Thanks for your concern. I've cut out the dried fruit consumption in the evening. Also actually cut out any saturated fat from coconuts. And I got my numbers right back in line. So I do not drink alcohol. And I don't believe I have a liver thing going on. My liver, my kidneys, all my different organs are quite important to me because they serve very important purposes in our bodies, and I strive not to do anything that's gonna hurt them knowingly, all right? Next question is from Adam Froman. Since honey is so high in the Brix meter, is it the best thing to eat? All right, Adam. So another question about honey. I talked about honey earlier, but yes, honey is high on the Brix meter. Brix, to remind you guys, measures total dissolved solids, including sugars, but also things like minerals as well. And so yes, I agree. Honey is not an ideal, optimal food for humans. But here's the thing, neither is other concentrated sweeteners like white sugar, things like maple syrup, things like agave nectar, things like, molasses. These are not optimal sweeteners for humans, in my personal opinion. Now, can you eat a little bit and still be healthy? Absolutely. But, I would encourage you to get rid of those because they cause you to keep your sweet tooth and your sweet cravings. We need to kind of ditch that and move away from these highly processed sugar products that basically light up our brain and give us a dopamine hit, right? Do some dried fruits. Dried fruits are a better alternative to things like honey, maple syrup, agave, and all these other coconut syrups and saps and all these things. I really want you guys to move towards fresh fruits. And if you still need something more concentrated, use some dried fruits. But I'll even say dried fruits got me in trouble as well. Right, next question is from Empty Nesters. John, what about dates? Are you still consuming those? How often? Also, do you have a video on how much fruit you eat daily? All right, what about dates? Are still consuming those? So dates are another dried fruit. That is probably one of my fruits of choice that I would actually overeat in the evening because they taste so good. And actually, a lot of raw foodists out there eat lots of dates because dates are packed full of calories, which could be a good thing, but they could also be a bad thing because the high calorie dates you're eating is displacing maybe lower calorie food you could be eating in a lot more quantity that can provide you a lot more phytonutrients and nutrition, like my greens. That's why I encourage all you guys out there watching to drink some green juice quite often. It allows you to concentrate the amount of greens you're getting. If you can't do green juices for whatever reason, at least minimally do a green smoothie. So you're actually gonna take some bananas with dates, if you're still gonna use dates in there, and blend that up and then at least get some greens into you. So I still do consume dates, but I've made a new rule for myself. It's rare that I just consume dates out of hand, like I rarely consume nuts out of hand, just unshelled nuts. I don't just shovel them in. I don't encourage you guys to shovel in dried fruits or things like nuts, but instead use them like I do generally in recipes. So I like to blend up dates or date sugar in my recipes to make it a little bit sweeter, to get some extra flavor, to add some flavor dimensions, or other recipes. But other than that, I strive not to consume dates in their whole form as super of a food they actually are. I know people are going to say dates are full of fiber and all these things. I mean, they're a very concentrated foods. Now, if I was going to eat some, actually I did this 2 nights ago, instead of eating standard dates, I would eat red dates or jujubes that actually have a little bit lower sugar content and actually a lot more health benefits, in my personal opinion, than the standard dates. So I really strive to minimize my consumption of these foods. Now, if I got some fresh dates because they're in season at the farmer's market, like some barhies that are nice and jelly and just nice and moist, or even better yet, the barhies that are still not quite ripe, that are a little bit more tart or on the stems, yes, I would still eat those because those are more of a fresh fruit and they're not quite as concentrated and the sugars haven't converted yet, and they're probably a good source of fiber, actually. So I still will consume dates, but I really am watching my personal intake and encourage you guys to watch your intake of dried fruits as well. Instead, go for the whole fruits. If you find yourself, you guys are eating too many dried fruits at the end of the day like I was, what does that mean? That means you're not eating enough fresh fruits or other foods during the day, so ramp those up. Now, the other question is, do I have a video on how much fruit I eat in a day? So my general goal is I try to have 1 fruit meal a day, and whether that fruit meal consists of just eating fruits, like the other day I had 9 persimmons, local grown persimmons that I had in my fridge for 5 months that were still good, or maybe I'll have some sumo tangerines, or maybe have some kind of fruit and vegetable juice, or a fruit and vegetable smoothie. Like for example, yesterday I had some papaya juice with a papaya, half a papaya, with some dragon fruit, frozen purple dragon fruit, frozen blueberries, 2 frozen bananas, some inulin powder and some probiotic powder. Blend that on up, and it probably made about 48 ounces of basically fruit smoothie for the most part, and I drank that, and that was my fruit meal for the day. It was so delicious, all right? And if you want to learn how much fruit I eat in a day, it's a good place to check my Instagram at Growing Your Greens. Follow me on Instagram. I'll post things that I'm actually eating in that day. Like if I'm eating a fruit meal, I'll post it like I posted my persimmons just the other day. Next question is from Maria V. Bauer. Did you also cut out the coconut water, and is coconut water actually a significant factor in affecting cholesterol? So I did not cut out coconut water, and I personally do not believe coconut water is a significant fact in cholesterol, because it's the fat, the saturated fat of the coconut that affects cholesterol, and the coconut water might have some trace amounts of saturated fat that somehow got into the liquid. I mean, it's probably more probable if you're eating mature coconut water I could see that having more kind of potential saturated fat, but probably next to none. And the thing is, I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about eating like, even if it's jelly meat that's super skinny, I'm not too worried about that, but the thicker meat, I'm really kind of steering clear and avoiding it, all right? Next question is from Goognam Goognow. All right, cool name. I'm confused now. I thought a masticator extractor should be used to extract juice, not a blender. Isn't the coconut meat similar to a carrot in texture? And I've seen carrots put in a masticating juicer. So which is the one to own? So he's talking about like making coconut milk. I had some videos of coconut milk, and actually after those tests, when I made some coconut milk and golden milk, actually, that's when I got my blood tested, and my freaking cholesterol was too high. So, you know, success leaves clues. Anyways, so number one, coconut meat is not similar in texture to carrots. It's a different kind of fiber. Carrots have like a lot less fat. Coconuts have a lot of fat. While the texture may be similar, it's totally different. If you put like mature coconut meat through the juicer, through a single auger juicer, you're gonna extract a small amount of coconut cream. So that's like a really rich fat because you don't have a lot of water content in there. And the other thing is that, you know, for all the time I've been into raw foods, I've always recommended slow juicing, or maybe people could call it a masticating juicer, which technically a masticating juicer is a Champion juicer, but Champion juicer is no longer selling juicers. I'll have another video on that soon on my Discount Juicers channel. I've learned about a new technology to make juice called vacuum juicing thanks to Tom Dixon. He coupled the vacuum blending technology that I brought out to the world on YouTube by making some videos on that, and he opened my eyes to vacuum juicing, where you could blend your mixture in a vacuum blender without the oxidative damage that happens in a standard traditional blender to massive extent, and to a much lower extent in slow juicers. You could now basically remove the oxidation as the cell walls are being blown open, and then squeeze it through nut milk bag. I use Alexa's bags. It's alexasbags.com. Everybody should get one of those nut milk or juice bags to extract the liquid juice out of it. I do have videos on this, antioxidation green juice, where I go over the process. I have a lot of other videos where I show how to juice various things from fruits to different vegetable juices using a vacuum blender. You know, and if you want the highest yield and highest nutritional quality, in my personal opinion, that's the best way to extract your fruit and vegetable juices. Now, should you get into a juicer or a vacuum blender? Here's the thing. Each one serves a different purpose. Some of them could do some of the process that the other one could do, but some of them they can't. So I think the best of all is to own both. Own a vacuum blender, own a slow juicer, the one that's gonna be right for you and what you're juicing, and you're gonna have both your bases covered. I would not personally get one or the other, but if I was gonna get one and I was hard pressed in the olden days, I would say get a slow juicer. But nowadays, I'm gonna honestly tell you guys, get a vacuum blender. They're more valuable to me than a slow juicer. And the vacuum blender I would get is the Dynapro vacuum blender. Videos down below, links if I remember. The next question is from YB. Is that an EMF protecting pendant you're wearing? If so, what brand type is it? Thanks for all your informative posts. Yeah, so I will constantly wear my pendant. They may claim it protects you from EMFs. I will personally not make that claim. This is called a Q-Link pendant. I've been wearing them for like 20 years. I've been wearing them for a long time, ever since I saw them at the trade show, and they did Carillion photography testing on me before wearing the pendant and then after wearing the pendant for one day, and I saw my Carillion photography. It was radiating more, so it was like it made me full of more energy. And how they say this works, it harmonizes and enhances your body's energy. And I'm usually not into this airy-fairy stuff like energy stuff and all these pendants, but I personally believe this works, and also even famous golfers have used this. I believe in it, and even if it's just psychological that I believe that it works and I'm wearing it and it's psychological and I'm benefiting, then it's working and I'm benefiting. That being said, it's a rare day. I take it off to take a shower. If I go in the ocean, I wear it with me. And if I go anywheres, including through the TSA lines, I keep it on. Because one time I took it off through the TSA line, it got lost in the stupid scanner, and they never returned it. So yeah, and then I have to lift it up and they have to show them like, oh yeah, there's nothing here. So yeah, that's what it is. Q-Link pendant. I like it a lot. It protects your body's energies from other energies. So it's not that it's protecting me from EMF, but it's making my body stronger to give me like a force field like in Star Trek. So your energy can't react to my energy, whether that's EMF energy or others' energies out there. So I like it a lot, personally. Next question is from Solitude is a Blessing. Are you still a raw vegan? So I would say absolutely, I'm a raw vegan to the core. But does that mean that I'm eating 100% raw foods diet, right? No, I am not eating 100% raw foods diet. And actually, it's been rare that I've ever claimed to even eat 100% raw foods diet. I have claimed to be 99.9% raw because some of the things like dried fruits or even like raw cashews that may be heat processed, or herbs and spices are not raw. But, you know, I've met a lot of people on my raw vegan journey, and I've done it to the best of my ability, like pretty hardcore, as close to 100% as one person could get, unless you grow all your own food. And so, like, while I don't achieve that level of raw food perfection, if you want to call it perfection, right? You know, I still eat 90% of my calories from raw plant foods. I solidly believe that eating raw foods is the best way to go because you damage the produce minimally. But here's the thing, I'm gonna also tell you guys, there's also this whole raw food dogma. You gotta be 100% raw, and you reach in a state of enlightenment, or you could fly, or you could have the ultimate health, and if you eat one morsel of cooked foods, you're a bad person and you're not gonna get the benefits. You know? So I mean, I think that's a little bit dogmatic to say all those things, but what I will say is that the kind of heat processed food you eat does matter. I'm not going to say all cooked foods is good, and actually what I'm going to tell you guys is, and I may have a video more expanding on this, because it's a really important topic to me now, is that a raw food diet is good to the extent that you're limiting other foods that could positively impact your health, your body, your nutrition, and more importantly, your microbiome. So for example, a lot of people into raw foods won't eat any beans, and there's lots of studies showing beans can be quite healthy for your microbiome and contain lots of nutrients and can fill in some nutrients that maybe raw foods don't have. There's been other studies that show sweet potatoes that they've been heat processed and then cooled, especially purple sweet potatoes, right? Have a different kind of fiber or resistant starch technically that feeds our gut microbiome that you can't get in simply raw sweet potatoes, right? So like, I don't want to limit my gut microbiome just to having raw sweet potatoes, because yes, sweet potatoes can be eaten raw. You could spiralize them, you could slice them thin, you could dehydrate them, whatever you want to do. I juice them, actually. That's my favorite way to get them into me before I actually started heat processing them, you know? So like, I don't want to like get left out of some potential nutrients or fibers, resistant starches that my body may need because I just want to live by this dogma of raw foods, right? Because I've always been about 100% health, not necessarily 100% raw, and I've found some very important reasons lately to, you know, change my diet and include a few heat processed foods done in very select ways. Once again, link down to the video below where I go into this in more detail if you want to learn more, because I can't just say eat this, don't eat that, blah, 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 blah. It's more complex. And the other thing I'm going to tell you guys is if you're heating your food above 250 degrees, you're creating possible carcinogens and toxins in the food, and I do not recommend any heat processing method to heat foods above 250 degrees. So what does that mean? That means the ways I recommend to heat process your food, if you choose to do so, is boiling, steaming, and pressure cooking, and that's it. No dry heating, no kind of ovens, no baking, no skillets, you know, no air fryers. I do not encourage or advocate any of those kinds of heat processed foods. Furthermore, because I process my foods, heat them in certain very select ways, that doesn't mean I just go out to eat foods at a stupid restaurant. I still don't go to restaurants. I can't ensure that they're processing my food the way I want to eat it. So if I'm eating some heat processed foods, I'm only going to do that at home for the most part. And otherwise, I'm just going to eat raw foods. And there have been days, you know, I went down to Puerto Rico and there's days of 100% raw foods. Even these days, you know, if I'm home, I'll eat 100% raw food some days. Some days I'll have a little bit of cooked stuff. What, are you going to crucify me now for not being 100% raw? I don't know, man. So yeah, so I consider myself a raw foodist because on the definition of rawfoods.com website, it says if you eat 75% or more of your food in its raw, natural state, minimally processed, you can call yourself a raw foodist. And that is a definition that I personally go by. I'm significantly above that at 90% raw. And, you know, the definition was made up to be more inclusive instead of exclusive, right? I don't like these exclusive clubs where you got your nose stuck up high in the air and I'm in the club and you're not. And if you guys want to exclude me from your raw vegan club, go right the effing ahead. because I don't want to be in your club anyways if you're mean. Next question is from Katie from Regenerative Health. Great page. I saw your post about getting your blood work yearly. Have you ever considered iridology? So I know there's a big camp in the raw foods movement that are really into iridology. Iridology, it's the way to go. I mean, here's the thing, guys. I would rather get my blood tested instead of doing iridology as my first step, but I am open to listening to what iridology has to say. Now, am I gonna put my life on the line for iridology and follow everything to the letter that it says? You know, here's the thing. I think it is actually a quite interesting way to diagnose you, and I'm quite open to hearing what it says, and then maybe follow that up with blood tests or other more verified methods of testing to see if I need help in those areas. Maybe I would take some herbs or supplements to try to cleanse my liver more if I think I needed that. But then there's also over cleansing, and you could over cleanse yourself to death. So, there has to be a healthy balance. And what is your healthy balance? I think there's a lot of people that are out of balance in the raw foods movement personally that just try to keep cleansing and cleansing until they die. And it's actually happened, recently. And I think it's quite sad that people cleanse till they die, and it's always, I'm too dirty, and that's the problem. There's a lot of other big problems in the world, guys. I think people should just need to relax a little bit, including me sometimes. That being said, I have gone to some of the top iridologists in the world to get my eyes read at a naturopathic doctor's convention. And I have the report, and I've looked at the report and kind of modified some of the things I do according to the report. So yeah, I think it can be valuable, but it needs to be put in its place in with other diagnostic measures that may be more beneficial, right? That's my opinion on that. Next question is from Joshua Franco. Hi, love your channel. Question for you. How would you recommend serving sizes for a raw diet? I eat primarily raw, but I feel like I may be eating too little still. Would love to see what an average serving size for you for a breakfast, lunch, dinner. I'm underweight due to many years of heavy metal poisoning. However, I think I'm accustomed to eating a certain amount due to it, and I'm not sure it's enough. Would greatly appreciate any help, insight. All right, Joshua, so here's the thing, right? Just because I'm eating this amount doesn't mean you should eat that amount. Everybody's different. We have different caloric needs. We're in different life stages, all these different things. Maybe it's good to kind of get a general idea of how much John Kohler eats, Here's the thing, if I'm eating, you could look on my Instagram at Growing Your Greens. I have pictures of what I'm eating. In many cases, like today, for example, I had 2 quarts of vegetable juices, 1 quart of green juice, 1 quart of a root juice, and then I had basically 1 quart of my pre-pepped raw soup meal. And then, did I even have any fruit today? I think we're gonna eat fruit after this video today. I'm gonna have some sumo tangerines and maybe some strawberries. And then I'm probably gonna have some heat processed greens and other vegetables that I put in the Instant Pot, because I have those already pre-made in the fridge that I did in bulk. So, that's how much I eat. And here's the thing, the most important thing to eat by is to eat by your hunger level. I mean, I'm feeling hungry right now. We don't feel hungry in our stomachs. We feel hunger in our mouth and in our throat. And I'm feeling that right now, that I'm hungry. So hopefully I'll be done with this video here pretty soon. But here's the thing. What I would encourage you to do is eat your meal, see how much you eat, and listen to your body, see if you feel still hungry or full. If your body's saying, hey dude, you've had enough, stop. But now the next part is the most important part. Write down what you eat, or more importantly, just go to chronometer.com and put in chronometer exactly the quantities of what you ate specifically, so that you could track your own calories, right? And then you could eat what you eat during the day and check your calories at the end of the day. Did you eat 1,100 calories? I mean, for a male my size, that's way under eating, man. Did you eat 2,000 calories? Maybe that's more in line with how much I should be eating. If you're going out and running marathons, you need to eat more calories, but maybe you're just not you're more sedentary. Maybe you're a female, maybe who knows what, but maybe you need 1,800 calories, but you need to figure that out through there's different, calculators. You can see how much are my calories, just Google that. How many calories do I need in a day? And there's all these calculations you could do to do that. I have no clue how to do that. I just Google it. But then you can see how many calories you eat a day after you put in all your food logs. And if you're low, right, then you're under eating, and you're gonna always be at a deficit, calorie deficit. On some levels that could be good, but over a long period of time, that's definitely a not good thing. I would recommend eating within your estimated caloric needs, within plus or minus 10%. Some days you might go a little bit low, which is fine, but some days you might go over, which is a little bit fine. But you always kind of want to remain in range, not eating way too much and not eating way too little either. And that's the best way to do it, right? Yeah, so I mean, that's what I'm going to tell you right there is, you know, I generally eat about a quart of compressed vegetables in a meal, a quart of juice in a meal. You know, I'll eat like 9 persimmons in a meal. I could have like 4 or 5 like sumo tangerines in one meal. I could have like 3 cartons, 6-ounce cartons of blueberries in a meal. I could have like 2 cartons of 1 pound of organic strawberries, so that's like 2 pounds of strawberries in one meal. It just kind of varies. I mean, right now I have a few mangoes. I would maybe eat 3 or 4 mangoes in one meal. It just kind of depends on my hunger level at that point. So yeah, that's what I'm going to tell you. Hopefully that helped you out. Let's keep moving on. Fringe Dweller. Hi, John. I'm a big fan. I'm also a local in Las Vegas. Can I ask you where you shop for jackfruits? Thanks greatly. So jackfruits, the place I recommend to go is SF Supermarket on Spring Mountain and Decatur. They're usually always going to be the best source of jackfruits. Sometimes the 168 market at Spring Mountain and Rainbow will have them, as will sometimes the 99 Ranch lower down on Spring Mountain as well. Now, my favorite place to get them is sometimes they'll have them, but most of the time they don't, is a La Bonita Supermarket. If you check their weekly ads on Wednesdays, if they have them, they'll usually be in the ad because otherwise they won't have them. And when they have them on ad, they'll be like 3 pounds or even 2 pounds for $1 sometimes. Then I'll just go there and stock up. I have a pretty good luck, you know, getting them there. And the other thing I'd recommend, you want to watch my Where to Get Exotic Fruits in Las Vegas video, link down below to that video, because I go over all the places that are likely to have jackfruit here. All right, the next question is from Health is Wealth. Hey John, I'm looking to buy a juicer that juices greens and soft fruits really well without backing up. Do you have any suggestions? So that could be a problem. Greens and soft fruits are totally 2 different textures, and the juicers can have problems with backing up. So are you juicing greens alone and soft fruits alone, or are you juicing them together is my question. If you're juicing them together, then I would recommend the Dynapro vacuum blender. The vacuum blender is gonna be the best way to juice fruits, but you're thinking, John, blenders blend, they don't make juice. So you blend it in the vacuum blender, you reduce the oxidative damage during blowing open the cell walls, and you put it through Alexa's nut milk bag. I have videos on that, link down below for how I juice fruits in a vacuum blender. If you're also doing greens, and you could do that in a vacuum blender, but you also need to have enough watery fruits to go with it. Maybe you're using cucumbers as your watery fruit. Maybe you're going to use celery as your watery fruit, and those are good ways to juice greens in the vacuum blender. Link down below to that. Other than that, like soft fruits really just don't juice well. If you want to juice soft fruits and greens, then I'd recommend a pure juicer. The pure juicer is like a press style juicer. You grind and then you press up the stuff, but a vacuum blender will be much better because that'll do it. That'll do the greens and the fruits. I mean, a lot of slow juicers just don't really handle the fruit texture that well. And I would need to know more specific information on what you're specifically juicing to give you a better recommendation. For example, I might recommend the Santa 727 because that's going to be the kick-ass juicer for greens, I guarantee it. But on soft fruits, it may fall short depending on the soft fruits you are juicing. Although it does have variable speed control, so you could crank up the speed to a high speed and run fruits through there so it doesn't back up. At the same time, you're also maybe lowering the yield, and especially if you're using fruits like berries come to mind when I think soft fruits, or I mean even mangoes, right? You really need a different extraction process than a slow juicer to optimally extract nutrients from fruits, in my personal opinion, like an old school apple cider press. And last question is from Kate Jung N. I have a garden full of kale, however, I've recently noticed an explosion of aphids on them. How can I naturally get rid of aphids, and how do you get rid of fire ants? All right, so number 1, fire ants. I don't really worry about I don't have fire ants here, but they could bite you, they could be nasty. So you could get this stuff called Orange Guard, I believe is the stuff it's called. And it's basically like an orange D-limonene orange oil. And you could pour that down the holes where they are and you'll be killing them. So hopefully you're not vegan. But that would be a good way to reduce their population. And then on the aphids, I mean, the easiest way with aphids, I have videos on my gardening channel, spraying them off with a blowgun, like a high pressure, like blowgun or an air compressor. You could blow them off if you want to be more vegan. Next most vegan thing to do is to basically use high pressure water and just spray them off your plants and keep spraying them off. Another way you could do is to just smush them with your fingers. That's not vegan either, of course. And then the next method I would use is called this stuff called Dr. Zymes. If I remember, I'll put a link down below. I have a video on Dr. Zymes, DRZYMES, on my Growing Your Greens YouTube channel. That's an enzymatic pesticide that basically will break down their exoskeletons and kill them, but it's actually, it degrades in nature very quickly, so that's not going to harm other creatures in your garden. You could go even next level after that, which I don't recommend, which would be like neem and Dr. Bronner's soap. But I think the biggest problem, if you're having aphids attracted to your plants, the goal is to build up your soil microbiome and build your soil nutrition so that your plants could make the secondary plant metabolites and more complex proteins that aphids won't want to eat, right? Much like us, if we eat a healthy diet, we're going to be healthy and we're pretty much not going to get sick. I have friends that are raw food who said that never get sick. I mean, I rarely get sick. If you're eating McDonald's and drinking milk and eating all this processed food, you're going to have sniffles, colds, and be more affected by different things out there in the world, right? So we want to make our plants super healthy, so you can only build your soil to do that. So hopefully in the future, you won't have to spray for aphids. And I wish every farmer in the world grew in the methods of having high quality food, because when you have high quality food, not only do the bugs not get it, so you not only do you not have to spray for the bugs, but also now you're getting more vitamins and minerals, and more importantly, the phytonutrients into you by eating actually less calories, but you're getting more nutrients because the food is more nutrient dense. So that's pretty much it for this Q&A. If you enjoyed this Q&A, hey, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up and be sure to share this with somebody else so that they could learn from my 27 years of wisdom on a raw vegan diet. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss my new upcoming episodes I come in every 5 to 7 days. You never know where I'll show up or what you'd be learning on my YouTube channel. And make sure you click the little bell so you get notified as my new videos come out. And finally, be sure to check my past episodes. My past episodes are a wealth of knowledge. Over 700 episodes at this time on this channel dedicated to teach you guys all about eating more fresh fruits and vegetables so that you guys can get healthier. So with that, my name is John Kohler with okraw.com. We'll see you next time. And until then, remember, keep eating your fresh fruits and vegetables. They're always the best.